We find out from a Mississippi sports expert who's the best player from Mississippi, from the universities in Mississippi to ever play in the NFL. We talked to Blake Levine of the Magnolia Shine podcast. He's in the house. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. We will bring in Blake Levine in just a second to talk about the Mississippi sports phenomenon and what he's doing over at the Magnolia Shine podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. It costs nothing, but it helps us out. If you want to become more, there's an insider program, $5 a month, and it has a 14-day free trial and the easiest cancel option out there. Link is down in the description. Give it a try. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So let's bring in Blake Levine real quick. Now, I think that in this age, the best player from the NFL that went to a Mississippi university, it's got to be Eli Manning. He beat the GOAT twice. I mean, it has to be Eli, right?
He's not even the best quarterback because I think Brett Favre or Steve McNair. However, Jerry Rice is the best. I mean, when you think about how much better he is at his position than any other player was at theirs, it's Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. I'll also honorable mention Jackie Slater. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention him because he had like a 15-year-old career with the Rams as well, coming out of Jackson State. 20 years. Yeah. Really good player. Anyway, Blake Levine from the Magnolia Shine podcast is in the house. And listen, you have a really cool thing set up to where you're just kind of accentuating Mississippi stuff around there. It could be high school stadiums. I saw something, the best high school baseball stadiums in the state on your site, all the way through to the best game day experience. It's pretty cool. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously I'm in the transition of not knowing what I'm going to do with my next step of my career. I have no idea just yet. However, I love Mississippi, so I was like, you know what, let's just keep talking about it while I try to figure out what else I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden people were like, I kind of like it, or I hate you, but I still listen to you.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And my wife actually showed your stuff to me and was like, you need to watch this guy and you need to get him on your show. And that's really interesting because Becky, she's really particular about that. And one of the things on the best high school baseball stadiums, the number 10 list, it was a top 10 list for anybody that's interested, was the West Jones Mustangs. And I got to play at West Jones in high school. And Blake's absolutely right. It was immaculate. It's amazing. I went to Magee and I played baseball at Magee. We had a dirt infield. We could not grow grass in the infield. The fences were 300 feet long. It was basically a pony league, rec league field. And then you go down into the schools in Jones County, either Laurel or West Jones or South, every one of those. And you're like, okay, that's why we're terrible.
But, you know, Magee plays at that sports complex now, and that thing's awesome. Just, I actually thought of Magee for a moment because they play at this really cool complex, but I didn't like it not being actually on the school grounds, and I was just like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna move off that one. There were some that I thought about, you know, West Lauderdale, Clarkdale, New Hope, Corinth. I mean, there were some really good ones I left off, and people were like, you didn't think of us. I'm like, no, I thought of you. I just made my list.
Yeah, when we played in Magee, it was McNair Springs, and it was absolutely, it was a garbage dumpster, basically. But the memory of that field was Chris Mangum hitting the ball into the top of the pine trees over the fence. Chris Mangum hitting a home run in that stadium, it hit different, man. It hit different.
Who was better, John or Chris?
I'm always partial to Chris, but that's because I went to high school with him. John's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, like I said, when you think of the Mangum family and like the four guys between, Grandpa, the brother, and then, why am I blanking on his
Jake,
name? Jake
yeah.
Mangum. When you think of the four of them, I mean, wow, is there a better family? I mean, maybe the McNair family obviously there's two Aaron McNairs. I know a lot of people only want to talk about Steve Aaron McNair, but there was an Aaron McNair before him, his brother, that was really good and played Arena League football and got to try out in the NFL. So, there's some great families here. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. In Mississippi, I have the Brian Smith, the Florida football scout, but he also does recruiting, and he talks about Mississippi and how there's basically four distinct areas of the state, and it's hard to get around outside of that area. You've got the I-20 corridor, to where you have a lot of football prospects there. You have the North Mississippi, which is essentially Oxford and above. You've got the coast and you have the Pine Belt. Those are the major recruited areas in the state of Mississippi. Now, West Point, all the stuff around Starkville, you have that as well. But as far as the major players coming out, if you were to think about how that rotates around, where do you think the power structure is right now between high school recruits going out? Which area are they coming out from?
Yeah, I think the Golden Triangle is the first one you probably got to think about. I mean, when you think about powerhouse teams, it's them. But, I wouldn't say they always have the best recruits. But, I mean, look, the Jackson Metro, when it comes to football and baseball at this moment, it's really amazing. And what's sad is the city of Jackson isn't really having it. It's the surrounding counties and the surrounding schools and private schools around it that has really kind of taken up, because you remember Jackson Public Schools, it wasn't just basketball. They were good at football too and had some really big time athletes, but now you just don't see it as much. And I got to say, Rankin County's kind of gotten really crazy with the high school football. Madison County, I mean, those ones are just insane right now.
Okay. Yeah, I went to Florence High through 9th grade, so I'm familiar with Rankin County and what's going on. But Jake Wimberly, who is a radio personality out of Madison, Mississippi, I went to high school with him too. He is the play-by-play voice of the Brandon Bulldogs right now. And Brandon, Northwest Rankin, all of that, Richland, Florence, and in Rankin County, it's interesting to see how much it has grown, because they weren't very good at football back even 20 years ago.
But think about this. Private school, Hartfield's won the last two championships.
Yeah.
Out of Flowood, right? I mean, so it's not just the public schools. Everyone thinks of Brandon, Pearl obviously had a championship with John Perry. You think about those, but then you think about what the private schools, Prep and Hartfield, they've won the last three titles combined.
I forgot about the Pearl Pirates. Good grief. How to forget about them? Good man. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will talk a little bit more about Mississippi sports in general with Blake Levine of the Magnolia Shine podcast. So stick around for that. Waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot in the line for the show that you've been absolutely dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That is where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. The prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. If you ever wonder what your view will look like actually before you buy, their app actually shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Really interesting stuff. We're going to bring in Blake Levine again. So you talked about the Jackson Public Schools, and whenever I was a kid, and I've got several gray hairs, I've been around. I'm class of 94 for those that are watching this. Jackson Public Schools and basketball was legit. it was real legit. Murrah High School, Provine, all of that, all the way up until, I don't know, Justin Reed, the Provine posse, when they graduated in the early 2000s, late 1900s, I guess. But what has happened with the Jackson Public Schools?
Everyone got really good around them because I think some of the school districts, have just kind of lost, I guess, the income that was in the city of Jackson, right? I mean, it's not always the school's fault for why something fails. Sometimes it can be the city government. Sometimes it can be the money leaving and the tax dollars leaving. So when people want to say, well, it's well, not necessarily. I think the coaches over there are doing the best that they can possibly do. But you ask a kid, would you, in a private school says, hey, do you want to come play for free or do you want to, get some level of a scholarship here at our private school? It's hard to say no, isn't it? I mean, I understand why a family and a kid does those things, because when you look at the championship series, it was really interesting. It was everyone around Jackson when it came to the boys basketball, because you had Germantown and Madison in 7A. You had Canton in it. You had Brandon almost winning it a few years or recently too. You've had Northwest Rankin win the title. You've had Clinton win the title twice. And then you look at the private schools. Jackson Academy, when they had the Williams brothers, was the best in the state, and it was Jackson Academy. So it's really just the schools around. The talent didn't leave the state. It just moved 20 miles in each direction.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense a lot. So before I ask you a couple more questions, who do you think the best high school player that ever played in Mississippi was?
Oh, I get so much hate for this one. Yeah. I get absolutely annihilated for this. Everyone said, and he's going to send me a text afterwards. He's going to see this somehow, and he's going to send me a text or a call. I tend to have Marcus Dupree second. And people go, ballistic. Hear me out on this one. I think if they would have let Dupree throw the ball, maybe we'd have a different thing. And right. Cam Akers threw for over 3,000 yards and had over 2,000 yards rushing his senior year of high school at the highest level in Mississippi, and they won the state championship. I could argue he was one of the best quarterbacks that season throwing the ball. And then you had to go tackle him? Are you kidding me? I mean, he's the most unstoppable force, I think, in high school football.
Okay, now, devil's advocate. What about name your player from South Panola? They had so many great ones during their run.
Tix Barksdale is usually in my top 5 because he never lost and he was the best player on those teams, at least statistically.
Yeah, good players there. Now, you talk about the triangle. Who would come out of there that you would look at?
Oh, you know what? This is going to sound really interesting. People got to remember that A.J. Brown is on a track to make the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I know that's a weird thing for people to hear, but the guy is I guess, 3-time first-team All-Pro. He's now a Super Bowl champion. He's putting up silly numbers, and he's now hitting the best stride of his career. That looks like a Hall of Fame career, in my opinion. At some point, he may be there. It comes from that. Yeah, I mean, it might be him. I mean, unless you think some of the old... Who was the old wide receiver coach at Starkville recently? Why am I blanking on his name now, too? He was really good. You count Noxubee County, or is that just outside?
No, Noxubee County can count. Yeah, okay.
Noxubee can count. Jeffrey Simmons, if we're just talking about pure high school football players, talk about having to deal with him in high school. That's a good question if you're just taking that region. I think right now I'm going to take A.J. Brown just off the top of my head. I know I'm probably forgetting somebody, but someone recent.
Listen, he did not have much of a college career, but in high school, this dude was special. And that was Brian Darden at Warren Central.
Okay, well, Brian follows me on my Magnolia Shine podcast, and he comments all the time on stuff because I pulled up some video back in the day from them in a 3-point stance and him coming around the left edge, at Warren Central, because Bobby Hall said to me, he said he was one of the toughest players to ever scout against was Brian Darden. Bobby Hall said that to me, and I was like, all right, I believe you.
Yeah, he was pretty special, and that's right about the same time that I graduated high school. So it would have been on the same, like, all-state, it's crazy. So I'd been paying attention to those names. Man, the high school football in Mississippi, one of the things that's driving me a little bit crazy is Magee and Mendenhall is going to consolidate and form a Simpson County Central. And as somebody that went to Magee and the realization that my high school is just a couple of years away from not existing anymore, that's going to probably be one of the state powers in football whenever they do that. And B, man, how can Magee and Mendenhall coexist together? As much hatred as it was for those two schools, I don't know.
Because at some point the new kids will be in there and they didn't grow up with it, so they maybe didn't even see it. So you think about 15 years from now, these kids that didn't get to go to the Simpson County Super Bowl, like what mentally, it's just tough to even know what it was like. I mean, you think about Bassfield and Prentice, but the one I always think about, because they were both Ware and Ackerman.
Oh, the Choctaw Central,
who just won another title right. So you think about those. Ackerman won 2, Ware won 6, and then Choctaw just won.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and once Magee and Mendenhall get theirs, they're
going to win one. They're going to win one.
Yeah, pretty quick, because that's some good football. And just people don't know this. Whenever I was at Magee, I played Mendenhall 3 times. I never played on either of the school's home field. It was always in Veterans Memorial Stadium.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was always there. And I never got to have the on-campus version of it, but that was super cool to go there the day before on a school bus and the big stadium all around. Yeah, that's what we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was Magee and Mendenhall, and then right after it was a doubleheader, Brandon and Pearl. On that weekend.
You talk about 2 really good rivalries. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. That's awesome, man. I wish they do more of that, but it'd be tough now. It'd be tough to do that now.
All right, boy. What do you got going on at the Magnolia Shine podcast? Tell people how to see your stuff. Tell people how to get your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, mainly I'm just posting my TikTok, which is the at magnolia.shine.podcast. And you can check in any part of the day. I release a couple videos a day. It's just whatever comes to my mind. I get about 1,000 ideas a day from people reaching out, and it's really just random. It's not like it's not a personal thing. I mean, it's just whatever. I'm sitting on my couch, trying to figure out my next step in life, applying for jobs. And, I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll do this one today. This sounds fun.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool. But check out the Magnolia Shine podcast on TikTok. Check them out on YouTube as well. Blake Levine is also available on Twitter. You can find him, follow his stuff, check all that out. Help the Magnolia Shine podcast, in my opinion, get some subscribers on YouTube, on TikTok, because Mississippi doesn't have necessarily the online high school presence. There's a couple of people that do that. It would be really nice to get some of the stories about Mississippi sports out.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do. And people laugh because I'm not from Mississippi. And you're like, where'd you come up with all this information? I go in rabbit holes of this stuff. Shout out my guy, Pampa, Mississippi, Brett. That guy does a wonderful job of kind of the cool, unique things of our state. And I kind of took a little bit from him because he does a great job, and everyone should go check out him as well. But yeah, I almost wish some of this information was more readily available, and it would make it even more fun to do.
Yeah. And it's people like you doing that stuff that's going to make it readily available for somebody that's doing what you're doing in 10 to 15 years. So you're laying the groundwork for it, man. And I appreciate it very much. And it's pretty cool that you came on the podcast, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for letting me come on.
All right. Thank you. All right. So this show is, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives. The Magnolia Shine podcast would be a perspective, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. If you're interested into a little bit more, join our Insiders program. The link is down in the description. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, and remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you later.